Beliefs can be useful if they point us in the direction of reality. If they're not aligned with reality, they can be positively downright dangerous because they can lead us into a completely alternate reality where we live a life based on lies. If we have a look at one of the beliefs that's central to Buddhism, and that is that every single one of us has the capacity to be a Buddha, to wake up fully to who and what we are, to wake up fully to the nature of ourselves and the nature of reality. That starts off as a belief, and it remains as a belief until we have some sense of its truth by experiencing it for ourselves. So that can be a useful kind of a belief because it might set us on the path to actually examining ourselves and looking to see whether or not there is some part of ourselves that is beyond our normal kind of surface perception of who we are. Now, if we don't undertake that examination, if we don't ever look within and search for the possibility that there is something deeper than my thoughts and emotions or whatever I normally think of myself as me, if we don't ever do that, then that idea that we have some true nature remains as a belief. Now, that's not an unhelpful belief to have that belief anyway, so it's not going to do you any harm if you believe that. So it's more likely to do you some sort of good because it's going to help you to look. And looking at ourselves and who we are and how we work and how our minds work is a very useful thing. So that's an example of a belief that's useful. Whether or not it's based on reality or not, you don't know that until you actually taste the truth of it for yourself. But for those of us who know that, yeah, there's truth to that, then for us, we can see that it's a belief that's pointing to a reality. Other kinds of beliefs are not so helpful. What we see when we look at America today is, wow, what believing lies can do to you. Okay, and on a Tibetan Buddhist level, maybe we'll talk about that first, you have a situation where people believe that if their Vajramaster hits them, that's kindness. And for so long as they believe that, they don't see the reality. They could be bleeding, and maybe he's grabbed your ear and he's ripped it off your head, so you're bleeding. And for so long as you see that as, he's giving me a lesson, he's being so kind to me, you won't see the reality. And the reality is, if you pare away all your beliefs about the situation and you're left with someone yanking on an ear and there's blood and there's pain, it's kind of obvious that harm is being created there, okay? And any idea that this is a good thing is a belief. It's just a belief, and it's not reality. Now, you could say, oh, well, people who believe that the reality is that it's not kindness, that's just a belief as well. Well, yeah, you could say that, but then you come down to the things, well, what's real and what's not real? And what's harm and what's not harm? And you could say, oh, well, it's all a matter of perception and it's fine. Whatever I believe is fine and whatever you believe is fine and we can agree to differ. But it's not like that because actually it's really quite simple. Harm is what hurts people. It's as simple as that. So when you have a belief that is telling you that something that's hurting someone is actually good, that belief is not aligned with reality. And so it's obscuring your perception. And so it is an obscuration. That kind of belief is not a belief that's leading you to enlightenment. It's a belief that is obscuring you from actually tuning in to reality as it is right now. Now, you could say, oh, no, on the contrary, it is a belief that leads to enlightenment, because if you see that as a lesson, then you're going to look at it in a different way. And, oh boy, that's going to be a key to your your spiritual growth. Now, you know, it could be, yes, it could be, but it's kind of a twisted way of allowing yourself to keep holding on to beliefs, and all beliefs are actually obscurations. The point, if we're going to talk about Buddhism, is seeing reality as it is, as it actually is, without any beliefs. And that's why when we meditate, we practice simply seeing, simply listening, simply being. We practice not engaging our conceptual mind. We practice not analyzing, not liking or disliking. We practice just simply being with everything. Now, when you do that, the world has a different quality to it, because you've not got this obscuration of your thoughts and emotions and your beliefs in the way. And my understanding of the whole Buddhist path, because of the obscurations that we're trying to get away from, we have to pare away the obscurations to reveal reality as it is and ourselves as we truly are. My idea of the path was always, okay, so we are clearing away all that stuff. We are going beyond beliefs. And I saw the Tibetan Buddhist system as, pointers to get me beyond beliefs. But some people hold on to those beliefs so tightly that they are no longer pointing you somewhere. They become what you hold on to. So rather than using a belief to liberate you, you start to use the same beliefs to solidify you, to actually make you more solid and further from your true nature, which is it's a real shame, because it's completely the wrong way around. And I think really what we need to see there is that conceptual obscurations mean all concepts, all beliefs. So if you actually want to be awakened to your true nature and the true nature of everything, you have to drop them all. You have to be willing to let it all go, including your belief that a particular person is enlightened or not. It's only a belief. It totally is just a belief. It doesn't matter whether that person is enlightened or not. If you believe they are or you believe they aren't, it's a belief. Which is why maybe they say, oh, well, you don't know. Of course you don't know. You don't know. And really, does it matter? I mean, it's just a label. That's the whole thing. These are all just labels. So the trick is to get rid of all your beliefs. And that's easier said than done. And that's a whole nother topic of whether we can actually get rid of all beliefs. But I think if you've had those, meditation sessions where you just do let everything go, even if it's just for a fraction of a moment, you can see that, yeah, actually, you can just be without any beliefs. And there's no need to hold on tight to any belief. Though I think we all have to have some sort of ground that we won't compromise. Okay, for instance, the belief that I should minimize harm and maximize benefit while I'm on this life, and that it's beneficial for me and everyone else if I watch my mind, You know, those for me are the three core things. But I don't hold on to them so tightly that I won't, hit somebody with a cricket bat when they're going to stab my daughter, you know? Because in actual fact, we need to be tuned into reality enough that we can behave appropriately. And so if we come back to this belief that someone, if they're a Vajra master and they're hurting somebody else, that somehow or other that's good, that prevents us from actually engaging with reality as it is and doing what is appropriate in that moment. And certainly it stops us from doing what's beneficial and what is avoiding harm, which of course is in complete contradiction to the Buddha's teachings. Mm. And, I read a thing in the Charity Commission UK's report on Rigpa recently, which showed that Patrick Gaffney still thinks the same way. He doesn't think that he saw anything that was harmful. He has no idea what's harmful, what's not, because he's stuck in those beliefs. He must be. It's the only answer for why he can still think that he didn't see any harm. Especially when you've had lots and lots and lots of different people say, well, yeah, he saw all this. He was treated like this himself, and he doesn't see it as harm. So, it's because he's holding on to beliefs so tightly, he can't see clearly anymore. And then the other thing is, Trump. Luckily, the courts are still base their decisions on actual evidence, thank goodness. And assuming that what we experience as a shared reality is something that we can agree on as being real, true, actually what is and what happened, then you can see that this belief that Trump has won the election, that it was stolen from him, you can see that it's a belief. It's just a belief. It's not reality. And yet the people that believe this thing, they're getting really upset about it because they've been told, and they believe because they haven't really examined. I can't believe, honestly, what some people believe. I thought some of these Tibetan Buddhists who believed all this stuff that, I took as with a grain of salt, like some of the superstitious stuff. I thought that was bizarre enough. But, these people who believe that the Democrats are, Satan worshipping cannibals, pedophilic cannibals, and all of this kind of stuff, and it's raining. So, okay, so I have relocated to a rock overhang, so I'm not completely in the rain anymore, but the camera's going to wobble a bit, so sorry about that. Anyway, so the thing is that whatever you believe, you will act according to those beliefs rather than according to reality. So in America, we have this instance where, people think that if the Democrats get in, their country will be wrecked. So we get a situation where people are so sure that what they believe is true that they're prepared to fight to stop something that isn't actually happening. Whatever you believe is true and real, that's how you act. It's how you think, it's how you perceive of yourself, it's how you perceive of the others. And that comes out in your actions. And in the example of the Trump supporters, you can see how incredibly dangerous it is. Now, these people have not evaluated, they don't trust the very people that are giving them the most unbiased news because they think they're fake news because they've been told that by Trump. They don't question that or listen to anything else that would tell them anything different. And it's just like in Rigpa. If you listen to the party line and you never thought about those things and you swallowed the whole thing whole, that's what you believe. And so when you see this situation of narcissistic abuse, you don't see it like that because your beliefs don't permit you to see it like that. So beliefs can be really, really dangerous. And when we turn it back onto ourselves, we have to realize the same thing. And that, we all hold beliefs. And the beliefs that we hold about ourselves can be dangerous for ourselves. So the idea is to give up all your beliefs. All your beliefs. Now, the thing about that is you've got to see your beliefs first. Also easier said than done, because a lot of our beliefs about ourselves and about the world are hidden. We might think, for instance, that we are not prejudiced against dark-skinned people. You might think that. But if we really examine ourselves in the way that we interact with the world, we might discover that in actual fact, we are wearing a certain amount of prejudice without recognizing it. So the process of getting rid of our beliefs requires us to examine our beliefs, to do some questioning of ourselves, of what we believe. Now, how we actually do that is a whole thing in itself, and maybe I'll go into that sometime. But you can start by just things like, who do I think I am? What do I believe about love, about marriage, about having a family? What do I believe the purpose of life is? What do I think about black people? What do I think about boat people, refugees? Just ask yourself these things and examine what comes up. Of course, you're going to be honest. You've got to make sure that you answer truthfully and that you don't, sort of give yourself this sanitized version of yourself. Because the idea, of course, is to actually uncover beliefs that we might not know that we hold. Because once we uncover them, then we can drop them and we can let them go. Once we see that they're not reflective of reality. And that's the question we have to ask. Is it reflective? Is this belief reflective of reality? For instance, maybe you think your parents didn't love you. Okay, that's a belief. So, let's just say, this is just an exercise. Say, okay, I am now going to say to myself, no, my parents did love me, and I'm going to look back at my life, and I'm going to look for ways in which they showed that they loved me. And you might be really surprised. You might discover that there's all these different things that they did that were showing your love. Now, it mightn't have been good enough for you. It mightn't have been the way you would have liked them to have shown you love. But nevertheless, it can show you that your belief is wrong, because your belief is about what you think love should be. It's not actually about whether they loved you or not. So that's the kind of thing that you could do. And this is something that we didn't do in Tibetan Buddhism. We were so focused on just, going straight to tuning into the nature of mind, the nature of reality, that we never did any work on our beliefs. And I think that we need to do that. I think that it is a part of the spiritual path that we need to do, because if we don't do that from, a conscious space, those things are always going to be there. They'll be the things that pull you out all the time. So you might be able to experience a state without belief while you're doing your meditation, moments when you're sitting under a rock to stay out of the rain, and you stare at the bush, and for a moment it can all drop away. But unexamined beliefs is what will stop you from living in that space all the time. So in summary, I just want to encourage you to look at your beliefs and to realize that it doesn't matter what you believe, it's an obscuration. All beliefs, all concepts are going to get in the way of you perceiving reality directly. Now, my idea that this is a rock stops me from seeing what it really is, And I'm not going to try and tell you what it really is, because I'm just using words and words of concepts, and which is why its rockness is just a way of talking about a phenomenon. And we have to do that, that's fine. We have to do that. We have to have a sense of ourselves as a human being in order to live in the world. That's fine. It's knowing what beliefs you hold and not holding any of them too tightly so they don't obscure your ability to see reality directly. How that relates to Trump's followers? Whoa. I mean, we tried with Rigpa to help people see how distorted their beliefs had become. But when you're holding really tightly to a bunch of beliefs, so much so that it's part of who you think you are, it's really hard to chip away at that and get people to allow themselves to see in any other way. And that was in a situation where even the teachings tell these people that they need to drop all their concepts in order to attain reality. Meanwhile, they're holding tight onto their concepts. So you would think in a situation like that they would be more able to let go had they truly been studying and understanding the teachings. And even then, that's not what we saw. With some we did, those of us who got out, and maybe we didn't believe too strongly in the first place. Maybe we also had a healthy sense of suspicion as to some of the concepts in Tibetan Buddhism, but there were plenty of us who had subscribed to this idea of Sogyal's abuse as some form of teaching, and then when we realized how bad it was like that belief just shattered because the reality emerged, and we allowed that reality to emerge because we didn't hold so tightly to this idea that it was a valid teaching method that it prevented us from seeing reality directly. When it comes to Trump supporters, whoa. I don't know. I really don't know how you can get these people to see reality, to accept reality. So if you've got any ideas, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Yeah. Okay, so that's it for today.